Okay, so what exactly was Derek Fildebrandt thinking letting out his taxpayer-subsidized apartment on Airbnb? It looks so bad. It is bad. You know what's worse? It's within the rules. Actually, the Speaker's office confirmed that there are no regulations against what Fildebrandt did, and I said yesterday that we should look toward those rule makers. Things need to change, and there is a review happening, so that's good news. Just because you can do something doesn't mean that you necessarily should, and there are times that ethics and morality should trump what's allowed. This is one of them. These politicians already get enough of our money, and really, Fildebrandt, being the finance critic and former director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, knows better. He's now apologized, said that he'll pay the money back, and is taking a leave of absence from his position as finance critic. But there's another piece to this puzzle that nobody is talking about. Did you know that MLAs profiting off of taxpayer money under accommodations expense rules isn't really all that uncommon? Under those guidelines, eligible MLAs that live in ridings outside of Edmonton, where the legislature is, can claim up to $23,160 a year or $19.30 a month for expenses that include things like mortgages, rent, and utilities. So magically, out of the 63 MLAs that claim the expense, 31 of them max it out on both sides of the aisle, with the NDP and Conservatives pretty much being even in doing so. So I'd say you can get a pretty swank place for $19.30 a month, wouldn't you? And it's pretty weird that so many MLAs are claiming that exact figure of over 23 grand a year, isn't it? What's more is that they don't have to account for all of the expenses they incur to the public. No receipts are available for us to look at. They're only required to fill out what's called a member's temporary accommodation allowance claim form. Look at it. It even says, please note, the member is responsible for retaining all records which support the annual amount identified above. How many times do you think these MLAs are getting audited? Because I'm pretty sure if they were, those max claims would be much, much lower. I also mentioned mortgages. How many of these MLAs own taxpayer-subsidized homes that they'll eventually sell, which could potentially end in a cash windfall, all thanks to taxpayers? How is that different from Fildebrandt profiting off of his apartment? Actually, these homeowners stand to profit way more than an Airbnb rental would. How is claiming a maximum expense and then pocketing what you're actually spending different than Fildebrandt making money off of his rental? Because let's be honest here, if one MLA is skirting the rules, there are others. Look, I'm not defending Fildebrandt. I hate abuse of taxpayer dollars, but it's very important to point out that this is a government-wide issue. And of course, the hypocrisy is just stunning coming from NDP MLAs. Sandra Jansen, for instance, retweets all of the attacks on Fildebrandt and has claimed the maximum expense. Yeah, Sandra, nobody is forgetting those plane rides you and your kid took with Alison Redford anytime soon. And hey, do you think she owns her own place in Edmonton and stands to profit from the sale of it? It wouldn't be a huge surprise since she's been on the MLA roster for a while now. And then there's Michael Connolly, who tweets out some smug comments and also claimed the maximum expenses, and Karen McPherson, who passed judgment and also claims the maximum expense. Notable Conservative MLAs that make the top claim include leadership candidate Brian Jean and UCP Deputy Leader Mike Ellis. So yeah, these people can't get all preachy and act like they're all morally superior here and expect us to just eat it up. This entire controversy has opened a huge can of worms. I haven't even mentioned the potential that some of these MLAs claiming over 23 grand a year could be sharing a place and pocketing the extra. And what about these MLAs that live a short distance from Edmonton, like Shay Anderson, who's riding of Leduc, and Aaron Babcock, who's riding of Stony Plain, are just a half-hour drive from the legislature? They both claimed under the accommodation rule. You know what? I've asked a lot of questions here, and I want the answers as much as you do. So I've written to the government about it. At the time of the airing of this video, I haven't heard back from them, but I'll update you when I do. I want to know what's going on, and I want to know if the government is actually going to change the rules or if they'll continue to get away with profiting off of taxpayers on both sides of the aisle. For the Rebel.media, I'm Holly Nicholas. Thanks for watching. Have you heard that YouTube is cracking down on content that they think is controversial? That could mean anything, and it could mean it affects us at the Rebel. So we want to build a conservative alternative. If you can help us out, visit theycan'tstopus.ca for all of the details.